Live from Los Angeles, it's Old Surf Dad. You.
Hey everybody, welcome to Surf Talk. I'm your host, Old Surf Dad, and we're going to jump in and talk surf. Hey, this is your talk show. I want your participation. Welcome from Sydney. It's lunchtime there. Here it is, 5 o'clock, just getting dark in California. Another day of waves. Tell me where you are in the world. Jump into the chat. It's open for business. Hey, we're going to jump in and talk about first, not Wednesday, not Big Wednesday, but big every day. It has been absolutely pumping. This is just one shot of the jet stream. It's been nonstop swells since the beginning of January. This whole year has been full of surf, and there's plenty. I'm not going to get into this too much. There's been plenty of great highlights. You can go to Surfline and see all the videos and the portfolios they have there. There's pretty good coverage. But one of the most impressive things I've seen, and having surfed blacks a lot, is this particular wave. It's unbelievable. This drop into oblivion, and all these guys, if you see on the inside, all these guys sitting there just getting absolutely axed on the inside. It's crazy. And I know the hold down. And these guys are getting held down forever, just getting tossed. Blacks is a gnarly spot to surf. So the other thing I saw was Cortez Bank yesterday. People were out surfing Cortez Bank. All the big wave spots are being surfed. But the thing I like is when there's a big swell, and I used to say this when I was in the Mentawai Islands, people would be like, I was a photographer out there, and people would be like, man, it's going to be really big. And I was like, hey, the bigger the better, because it opens up more spots. And that's the same whether it's the same anywhere in the world, but especially here in California, there's places that opened up. And I think Santa Barbara's Sandspit is a good example, and you can go look that up. I don't have pictures of it, but what I do have is I have this video of my local beachy, and it's not my local beachy. There's a lot of people that I share it with, but there's a couple nooks and crannies out of the way where I got to just get regular surf. Here's a regular guy surfing this really fun right. And I just kind of took the drone in on him, and I picked this because he's just having a blast. He's going down the line on a head high wave. And that's what opened up for us. I didn't surf the big day. I didn't surf the day after the big day. I surfed the day after the day after the big day. And it was epic. And I think there's been waves ever since. And we just had another big day. The only thing is there's a little bit of bacteria in the water at some of the spots, but it's been all time. And in Hawaii, we've seen it too. And we're going to see some Hawaiian surf here in a minute. But what I wanted to is jump to the WSL Juniors. And what we saw there was Seaside Reef all time. Like, I've never seen Seaside this good and this heavy. Some of these inside sections were absolutely bombing, and there were competitors that weren't afraid to hit it. And probably my favorite off the top was Sierra Kerr. I don't know if you saw this, but I think it's probably one of the best turns of the event. It could be argued. There's a lot of good surfing there. And I love that Francisca Villa, I can't remember her name. I don't even know who these surfers are, but they're coming in hot. They're world champions. They're junior world champions. And we're going to see them in the WCT in the coming years. So I want to switch gears for a second and tell you all that I have a new website. And the new website is up and running just in time for the new WSL season. And I've got it set up for you to register for our league. If you haven't registered for our league yet, jump in and register. It's really easy. Just click on the button at the top. I've got it circled right there. Just click on the button. It'll walk you through. The only thing you have to do is you have to confirm your email. You have to check your junk email. If your email's not in, I have to take you out of the league, because the last few seasons I've had situations where I've had to track down people for their prizes. And I don't know if it's you or not. And I'm not going to send you any spam or you won't even get an email from me unless you sign up for the newsletter, which is at the bottom of the page. That's a whole lot of information, but Register for our league. It's a lot of fun. We had a lot of people. We had hundreds of people last year, and Dave Bob won the trophy, which we'll talk about in a moment. But what I want to do is actually take a quick tour of the website. Just run through it real fast. If you go down, you can see there's the interview with Dave Bob. There's where my fantasy picks will be. There's a Hall of Fame. And up here at the top, right here, you can see Pipeline has 13 more days. Pipeline has 13 days until it starts. It's like less than 2 weeks away. And I've got a whole bunch of information that you're going to need for your fantasy team. And I'm going to go ahead and click on the Pipeline page. And there's surf forecasting. There's past results. I've got my power rankings. I want you to guess. Tell me in the chat. Tell me on the comments. This live broadcast will be a YouTube video directly after this. Tell me in the comments who you think are who are the top 3 in the power rankings. Then I give you my opinions in the fantasy radar of who I think are worthy candidates to be on your fantasy team. And finally, there's the survival stats. And this is probably going to be the busiest page on my website. If you click on it, you can see who's survived and who hasn't. And right here, you can see one of the top survival champions is Kelly Slater. 92% of the time, he survives. That's 11 out of 12. I only had 12 years of information on this. But then you go down and you see Zeke Lau is not a good choice. He has never survived out of four attempts. So I think that's something that you can use for your survival team. And let's talk about survival for just a moment. I did a video. I had an interview with Taylor Lobdell, who was the creator of Surfival League. And one of the cool things that he did was he put together our own team within the league. And he calls us the Old Surf Dad All-Stars. So if you want to be in the Old Surf Dad All-Stars, just register over on Surfival League, survival-league.com. You see the URL there at the top of the page. And then use referral code Old Surf Dad, and you'll be put into our team. And if we get enough people to do this, I'm going to have a prize or something like that. And the more people, the better the prize. You know what I mean? And it's a lot of fun, man. I love Survival League. I can't wait to play this season. And all you do is pick one surfer to make it through the round of 32. If you want more information, if you don't know what I'm talking about, look up the video. I'll have a link in the description, and you can learn more about Survival League. All right, moving on. One of the things I want to talk about today was the new changes to the WSL. And some of these changes will affect our fantasy teams. And there's several, I'll just call them, there's several new rules out there. And let's just jump into it because I think it's interesting. And the first one of my favorites is now, I'll read it, a mandate for competitors to use wearable technology that can be used to capture biometrics and send live updates on priority, wave scores, score requirements, and time remaining. So in other words, they're going to have like a Rip Curl or an Apple Watch. And I think some of you probably have this Apple Watch that has this app on it. And you can track your sessions and all that. I don't wear a watch, and especially not in the surf. I kind of want to detach, but I also respect that if you want to track your sessions and check out how long your waves were and how fast you're going, I think it's kind of cool. It's kind of neat information. But I think as far as it goes for the surfers, one of the things I used to hate was when you'd see like Tati right there, like, hey, how much time's left? What score do I need? And I think all that information is available, and it's been available for decades. And not decades, for about a decade, and we've never harnessed that technology. And I'm so glad that the WSL is doing this. I'm not sure how much interaction they're going to be allowed to have with a coach. I hope that a coach can give them notes on their watch. Hey, look for the outside set, look for the swing wide. Usually we have this, at the Volcom house. You see the camera turn up to the Volcom house, and the guys are waving a towel a certain way, or they put the red towel up and that means the set's coming from second reef or whatever. Or Felipe's dad has that one whistle, and I think you can interpret the whistle a couple different ways. In this case, this was a situation, and it was on make or break, where Tati had told Sage that she had priority, and Sage didn't have priority. And Sage went, and Tati basically just weaseled into a heat win right here. And Sage was none too pleased. She was pissed. And it's a really good scene in Make or Break, but I'm sad that Sage didn't make it in this particular heat because of that. But anyway, I think that's a no-brainer. I like that rule. I hope there's no problems with this technology. I hope it's ready for this. And I think you may see people, or you may see commentators go, hey, his heart rate is, I don't know how much biometrics they can get. His heart rate is up, or he seems pretty calm. I don't know what they can pull from this watch. Tell me in the comments what you think. And tell me if you have one of these watches. I'm curious to see what you think about it. All right, let's move on to number 2. Number 2 is they're waiving the requirement for CT surfers to surf in CS events. Let me get a drink of water and soak that in for a second. So the WSL used to require that all CT surfers surf in a CS event. And I think that was to bring big names to the CS event, to bring audience and all that. And it pissed off the CT surfers because, hey, they've already qualified. They're on the grind all year, and now you have to surf a CS event. I think that's part of it. The other part of it that I don't agree with is here you've got these CS competitors that came up for the QS, and now they've got CT competitors taking their spots and knocking them out in early rounds. I don't think it's right. The only thing that I'm disappointed about is we won't get to see John at Haleiwa. Every year he gets in that CS event for the last 2 years, and he absolutely demolishes it. Some of his best clips come from Haleiwa. And here's what happens. We all get pumped up. We watch him surf Haleiwa, and the next thing you know, he's at Pipeline, and we're like predicting he's going to win. And he has won, but I think he builds up a lot of hype for the season when he surfs Haleiwa. And we're like, God, John's the best surfer in the world. Like when we watch that, and I absolutely, think he is, especially in Hawaii. But I think it'd be good to, not include the CS surfers or the CT surfers in the CS. All right, what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Next, we're going to go to rule number 3, and I'll just read this real quickly. Wildcards will no longer be allowed to receive ranking points. And this we'll call the Baron Mamiya rule because Baron Mamiya came into Pipeline last year. He got points enough to continue, and he actually qualified through the CT and made it through the cut, which kind of proves that it's viable to have a wild card get points. However, there's people on the QS, on the CS grinding their way through, and this guy got a shoe in and right into the league. So I can see both sides of that. I don't know what you think. Tell me in the comments. Tell me in the chat what you think about wild cards. The only thing that really bugged me about this, I think Baron is worthy to be on the CT. The thing that bugged me was on the women's side, Moana Jones pretty much had the same results, just flipped, that Baron did, and she didn't make it on. They didn't let her have a wild card in the CT. And I think that's wrong because Moana can surf smaller surfs. She's not just a pipe specialist, but damn, is she a pipe specialist. I know that you have all seen this. It's on everyone's Instagram, but it's worth another look. Let's jump in and just have a look at Moana Jones' wave yesterday at Pipe. Yeah, this is the best wave that a woman has ever caught at Pipe, they're claiming. I absolutely agree. Look at this thing. This is a proper pipe bomb. And she's not only like pulling into a keg, It's super thick right here. And then as she comes through, she's riding the foam ball right there, do the section, and then gets spit out. I mean, that is a beautiful wave. I didn't see the rest of the waves yesterday, but I have a feeling that was one of the better waves of the entire session yesterday. So congratulations to Moana Jones. I can't wait to see her surfing the Billabong Pipe Masters. I'm sure she'll be a wild card. I couldn't imagine why she wouldn't be. All right, rule number 4. Let's talk about rule number 4. Rule number 4 is a no-brainer. In the first heat of the WSL finals, the 4th-seeded surfer would start the heat with priority over the 5th-seeded surfer. Who wants to argue with that? Nobody. Of course there should be priority. Brisa Hennessy should have had priority over Steph Gilmore. It didn't matter. I watched the beginning of that heat, and Brisa had priority and kind of fell on the wave anyway. And I don't know if you all remember that heat, but Brisa was in that with a minute left and made a priority mistake at the end. And Steph caught a wave with 30 seconds and won that heat and turned that heat. She was actually comboed. And Steph went on to win, which is unbelievable. It's like one of the, I don't know, it's one of the biggest things that happened in a world championship. And then later she said, God, I really feel bad about this. I'm the champion, but Carissa earned it through points. So, the real controversy is, should the WSL be at Trestles? The real controversy is, should there be a WSL finals? I'd love for you guys to weigh in on that. Tell me how you feel about it. Tell me in the comments or tell me in the chat what you're thinking about that. All right, number 5. Let's go to rule number 5, change number 5 for the WSL. This one, I'm not a fan of this one, and it is this. No wearing hats and holding bottles or cans with brands that are not sponsors of the WSL on the award podium. Now, this is clearly something that the agents and athletes do not want, because it, in a way, takes money out of their pockets. Here they are getting sponsorship deals where they get incentives for wearing the hat or wearing the shirt, or they're required to do this in front of camera. And now the WSL, if you're not sponsored by somebody who sponsors the WSL, and a great example is Monster Energy. Monster Energy, I don't think sponsors a WSL. They didn't on the CT last year. And Felipe Toledo right there is sponsored by Monster, so he can't have any Monster apparel or be drinking a Monster drink. But, it could also be a ploy by Red Bull to team up and kind of force them out, Either way, I don't know if this is a great rule, and I can see the WSL working. They're trying to be the NFL. They're trying to be like a professional sports franchise and limit the exposure of all these brands. I think the one thing that I read here at the end is that are not sponsors of the WSL on the award podium. It says award podium. It doesn't say in a post-heat interview on the glass. So in a post-heat interview on the glass, they could hold their Red Bull, or not Red Bull, let's say Rockstar Energy, and drink it and have the Rockstar hat or any of that to satisfy their sponsors' requests. But this one's super controversial. I can't believe no one else has said anything about it. I can't believe the athletes aren't kind of rebelling against this, because this is eventually going to cost them money. And this ties into number 6. And number 6 is no boards in the post-heat interview or on the podium. So this is against the glass. You can't have your surfboard with you. And this one, this is interesting because I can see their point. It's a billboard, but I think in our sport, if you allow me to call surfing a sport just for this exercise, in our sport, the surfboard is really special. It's custom made for its rider, for its professional rider. It's the F1 car. And of course you see the F1 cars as they drive up, covered with different sponsors. And I think a board, I don't see why a board can't be on the podium, because eventually Pete Mel's going to go and dig up a board and talk about it on the broadcast. And I hope they continue to talk about it on the broadcast. I think it's important to get information about the surfboards. I think the surfboards are such an important part of competition that they need to be talked about. And what they should ban is bucket hats. Bucket hats should be banned. Anyway, so there's number 6. What do you think? Moving on to number 7. And number 7 is seating. Let's move into seating. There it is. Seating. The WSL will implement the system that was in place in 2019 that rewards the round 1 winner. So let's talk about the round 1 winner. The round 1 winner will get priority seating, and this gets complicated. I'm not going to go too deep in this, but this will affect your fantasy picks because of the way that they determine the matchups. And last year it was difficult to get the WSL to put out the matchups and in a timely manner. So in other words, I was struggling to make picks, but I wanted to see who was Kelly going to surf against at Pipe, who was Jack going to surf against at G-Land. I wanted to see who those matchups were, and I think it's going to be delay. I tried to figure it out a couple times, and it's a matrix that is almost impossible. So what I'm going to do is the new 2022 rules are not out yet for the WSL, not 2022. 2023 rules are not out yet. When those rules come out, I will break it down in another broadcast. But for now, we're going to just sit. Who hasn't sat in front of the computer like a supermodel from Prague trying to figure out how the brackets work? I didn't put the slide up in time, so my comedic timing is terrible. But anyway, it's confusing at best, and the WSL could certainly help us out by giving us bracket information. And as I mentioned before, if you haven't seen my video on bracket picks, it's worth searching out. Go to my channel and search bracket picks, and you'll be able to see the strategy that I use to pick my fantasy team. All right, speaking of fantasy team, let's take a quick look at the men's and women's tiers for fantasy, for Pipeline, before I jump out. Jump into the broadcast, jump into the chat. Tell me in the comments below what you think. Let's start with women's tier A. And women's tier A, I'm not going to make my picks. I do that in the video. I'm going to make my picks in the video. I just want to throw out the names and just look at them real quickly and maybe have some reactions from you all. My first 3, the women's tier A, Steph Gilmore, Carissa Moore, and Joanne DeFay. That one is pretty easy for me. We'll see what happens when I see the matchup, if I get to see the matchup. Tier B. Tier B is interesting. There's a lot of good names in here. Now remember, in Tier A, the women's, you get to pick 1. In Tier B, you get to pick 2 women. And here they are. Tati, Brisa, Lakey, Courtney, Tyler Wright, Gabriella Bryan, Isabella Nichols, Caroline Marks, and Betty Lou Sakura Johnson. So you've got to narrow that down to 2, which will be difficult, but I think it'll be easier in this next tier. Here's Tier C. And Tier C is basically, let me say it like this. Macy Callahan is for real. I know she's going to get written off by most people. She's going to do well this season. She's had experience on the WCT before, but the 2 we're talking about for Pipe right now are Molly Picklum and Katie Simmers. And they both placed in the top 5 in the Vans Pipe Masters. Of course, Molly Picklum won and Katie Simmers was 3rd. And she was 3rd. And that's the choice that you're going to have to make. That's probably the toughest choice in your entire fantasy draw. Who am I going to take? Am I going to take Molly Picklum or am I going to take Caitlin Simmers? And geez, I'd like to see a matchup before I make those picks. But that's going to be really interesting. Let's move on to the men. Going to the men for Tier A, we have Felipe Toledo, Idolo, Jack, Ethan Ewing, Kanoa Igarashi, Miguel Pupo, Griffin, and Kaio. And I don't like any of these guys. I got to be honest. Like, I wish I could give up one of these Tier A picks and pick from Tier B, which we're going to see in a second. But I have some ideas who I'm going to pick in there. Let's move to Tier B, where there's a lot of potential champions. So here's what we got. We got Connor O'Leary, Sammy Pupo, Calum, and then here's some of your, this is Tier B. John Florence, Gabriel Medina, Yago Dora, Jordy and Matthew, the South Africans, Kelly Slater, Baron Mamiya, Nat Young, Jake Kalohe, Jadson, Seth, who was second place last season, and finally Jackson Baker. Tier B has so many good surfers in it. That's going to be so difficult to pick. You're going to have to pick 4 surfers out of Tier B. And then finally Tier C, which will be 2 surfers that you'll pick. And you get to pick from Leo, Ryan Callanan, who are both solid. We're all wondering how Rio's going to do. You got Rio in there. I don't know anything about Maxime Houchemont. I'm not even saying his name right. Ramsey Bukarem, Michael Rodriguez, Ian Gentile, who has surfed in the trials before, who's a local Hawaiian. Then, of course, Joao Chianca, who did well last year, Liam O'Brien, and Zeke Lau. So there's your choices for Tier C. Let me know who you think you're going to pick or who you like in those tiers. I'm going to put together, as I said, a video of all of this with stats, with the surf forecast, and with my picks and my survival pick on a video coming soon. Probably about a week before the event. So I've got like 6 days. I got a lot of work to do. So anyway, that's the show. This will be rebroadcast. This will be reset and put onto YouTube as a video. I appreciate everybody watching. Thank you. And I'm going to try to make this an every Sunday thing. So join me. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.